Namaskar. We welcome you all to the Center for Soft Power's global webinar series, Soft Talk number 4. The Center for Soft Power is India's first center that is dedicated to the study of Indian soft power. Its aim is to map the various elements of Indian soft power while also carrying out research and engaging with practitioners and academics. Today we bring to you a conversation with Sri Bharat Bala, an award-winning filmmaker. I remember in the 1990s, in the mid-1990s, when my son very excitedly brought this video of our national anthem and Vande Mataram that was directed by Sri Bharat Bala. It literally brought tears of joy to everyone who watched this masterpiece. We have with us Sri Hari Nair, who is an entrepreneur, a management consultant, a travel talk show host, a radio show host, and an eternal student, he says, who is now pursuing a deep study of our ancient civilization. His creative conversations with Hari that are hosted on Facebook have been viewed by millions. Before allowing Sri Hari Nair to take over, I would like to thank Sri Bharat Bala and Sri Hari for accepting so spontaneously to share their precious thoughts and their precious moments with us today. And I also welcome the audience that we have who have set aside their time on a weekday morning. So now I hand it over to Sri Hari Nair to take this forward. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks a lot, Vijayalakshmi ji, for this wonderful opportunity. Good morning to everybody in the audience. As she said, it's a Friday morning, so we know it's a working day. So it's obviously close to everybody's heart that you're all here today. Very warm welcome to Bharat Bala. Needs very little introduction. Marquee work that has got many awards and won many hearts. We will talk today about a lot of the work that he's done. We will try and spend some time looking at how that work has been influenced by the deep culture of the land. And then, Bala, if you're okay with that, we will dive a little bit into the big initiatives that you are doing, and also your thoughts on how India can leverage sort of the deep cultural roots we have for soft power. So that's broadly the kind of canvas that I have for the day. So shall we start, Bala?
Yeah, thank you, Hari. Thank you, Vijayalakshmi ji. And it was interesting to see the, culturally, when you introduce somebody, the idea of Sri Bharat Bala, Sri Hari, it's very interesting. Thank you. Happy to be here with you, Hari.
Great. So, let me kind of start in the reverse order. They say that you should always start at the beginning. Let me start at today. You are in the midst of a fascinating, massive project, Virtual India, Virtual Bharat. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where that's going, where the vision came from, et cetera, et cetera? Just give us an introduction to the project.
Hari, actually, about 3.5 years ago, when I was just looking at saying what next to do, and content being the in thing, because technology has made streaming affordable, and it is reaching all corners of India. But what kind of content are we making? So at that point, I wanted to get deep into making something which has been a part of my DNA over the last 25, 30 years of traveling across India, that I want, and an extensive research that has already been happening, that I thought that we should do something as a big idea, as a legacy project. I didn't want to come up with some series which says, okay, show 1, show 2, because it's too small. India is such a deep thing. So, and also being a traveler, when you go to the West, you go to museums, whether it's in Europe or America, they become a hub of learning, experiencing, civilization and cultures from the world. Whereas in India, we are like, because there is too much of it, we have never been able to showcase and package it and present it, especially for younger audiences. Okay. So for example, a kid will go from here to Abu Dhabi and see that museum of Louvre about something about India and come and talk to us, which is, so anyway, moving forward, I said, here's an opportunity to create a virtual museum of India, cloud. Put stories of India in the cloud. So the idea of saying, hey, let Bharat be visualized and experienced virtually, okay? And so what are the key drivers to do that? One, let's make each of the content, uncovering untold stories of India is the journey.
Okay.
Second, make each of the film under 10 minutes so that people can really, even if it is not his main interest, will be open to watching it. Once he opens to watch it, he'll be sucked into it. So we wanted to win new audiences. We wanted to embrace most of India into it idea. So 10 minutes was important. And third, be consistent and continuous. So we're making first goalpost is let's make 1,000 films on India.
Wow, 1,000 films.
1,000.
Wow, okay.
Virtual Bharat as one destination in 5 years with 1,000 amazing stories of India. Each film is a gem. Otherwise, we will not put it out. It will be contemporary in the best of the filmmaking of whatever you find. Great production value, non-fiction, good narrative, and immersive experience within 10 minutes to tell one aspect of that story. So that is Virtual Bharat. We are about 85 films we have filmed across India at this point of time. We have released 9 films so far in the last few months and have millions of audiences. And we're not marketing it, but we will imagine today we are at 9-10 films. Imagine when we are 100 stories.
Yeah.
Imagine we are 500 stories.
Sure.
When we are 1,000 stories, we are creating impact. So it's important to create this impact with the generation so that they engage and embrace what is this great country, what is this great culture. And most importantly, we are making all these films in original languages.
Okay.
In Orissa, it will be like even a tribal language like Kosli, we made of it. Malayalam, Assamese, Punjabi, Marathi, Tamil, Gujarati, any Telugu, any original, every film will be in its original language. And lastly, I would say my deep, vision is that when you take, for example, a child from Nagaland who is growing up today in Nagaland, but has access to her smartphone or whatever, everybody has access today, but can never ever travel to a place like Orissa.
Yeah.
I take her and let her embrace the diversity of India. Can she feel the sense of pride of belonging to a great country and embrace this entire nation and its culture? That is the subconscious reach that we want to achieve. Thank you.
Wonderful. What a great summary. What indeed a great summary, Bala. So, 130 crore people. And there's always been this whole discussion saying that the corners of India, we never get to see the other corners of our land or appreciate. And for those of us who've been lucky to travel, we know what is there. So it's a wonderful thing. Let me turn a little bit to the craft that you are deploying in this, right? I've just seen one film and I deliberately just held back because I want to see, as you said, a series that comes along and just dive into that once you've reached a certain number. But the reason I looked at the first one was because it's from my home state. It's actually from home, from Kerala, and therefore I was very tempted to look at it. And I suspect that that's the case for all films, right? Where it comes from is where it will strike the first chord. I found it to be an incredibly visually gorgeous experience, a very touching experience. So you want to tell us a little bit about, how you thought about the craft that you want to apply to these films?
Yeah, obviously we are in a visual medium, okay? So it has to be visually cutting edge experience. to tell the story. So people feel it's now, even though you're telling an ancient story. Let's look at the Talam film. Okay. Now, I do go a lot to Alep. I want to make another boat race. So Kerala boat race is known to a lot of people. What excited me was, who are these 150 people who come together? So every story you have to find an angle and go deep into the angle so that it has a new emotion, a new story. So it's a given story. People of Kerala know it, but I reintroduce that story to back to the people of Kerala. When you watch about 5.5 million people have watched it, it is people of Kerala who supported that film because they feel a sense of pride and in that story angle. So what was so special for us is to say that, he's not an athlete, they're not sportsmen, they're shopkeepers, farmers, carpenters, postmen, school teacher, fishermen, and everyday people. But when they come and sit in the boat, there is a rhythm that has been set, and we have to follow the rhythm. He says, if we follow the rhythm, they are winning the race. So I just said, imagine India, man. We are a nation of such diversity, diverse people. But if we fall as a nation in rhythm, the nation is winning. So there's a slight messaging, but not overtly. So wherever possible, if it can help bring about a deeper emotional connect and a messaging, we do that.
Beautiful, Bala. I think that's wonderful. And I think all of us are going to wait for all those films to sort of unfold gradually.
One important thing, Hari, I want to bring about is it's not that I can just go and do these films. Okay, I'm also bringing young minds to be a part of this filmmaking experience. Let me talk about this Talam soundtrack, which is a very popular soundtrack. Okay, it's done by a young kid called Varki. So whether it is editor, is Christy, a young kid, and Sudeep, the cinematographer, it is just that they were there. They didn't do it, but I'm just giving them the enthusiasm and the emotion, and I'm overseeing it to see that it's put in a certain way so that it shapes, it's curated in a certain way. But my goal is to make these 1,000 films, I should have 150 young cutting edge talent of India, cinematographers, editors, sound engineers, sound composers, music composers, and researchers. So if there is anybody young and wanting to do this, at the end of the day, we're making filmmaking. It's not some social service we're doing. We want to be proud. We need to be competitive. But unless your film is so competitive, it will not cut through. So we want to make the best film. So anybody who is in the craft of filmmaking, wants to join the bandwagon, hey, come on, come to Virtual Bharat.
What a great offer indeed, actually, because, and especially if you're interested in the cultural roots of the country. In fact, if you want to learn, this is probably the best way to learn, right? I mean, you can just see the whole country while you're doing what you love to do. Wonderful. In fact, that gives me a segue into the other part, which is the beginning. Let me jump to the beginning. I was watching a video of yours, an old video of yours, where you talked about the beginnings of your journey as an ad person, an ad filmmaker, an ad person. And you said you took the path less taken. As a Chennai boy, you decided to be in Chennai as an ad maker and ad filmmaker, and said, I won't go to Bombay, which is those days Bombay and the place to be. And you took a completely different path, and it paid off for you. So obviously there was, there was a streak of the different about you at that time. There is a streak of the different about you certainly now. So can you tell us a little bit about how the journey started, how you went about it, and where it led you in the early days?
First of all, I grew up in a family where my father was a part of the freedom struggle and a lot of nationalistic values being brought in. Okay, so somewhere the heart of India was always, there. But I did zoology. I wanted to do medicine. I could never get a seat in those days. My father wanted me to be a doctor and do service and blah, blah, blah. but never happened. So I went to London to study television, and then I came back, but that was not the gig I wanted to do. So accidentally, I got an opportunity to be to do an ad. So the challenge for me was I was not bothered about any competition. I didn't know what advertising world was or what this big ad film world of Bombay was. I said, hey, here's an opportunity. How can I make the best of it? Most important, whatever may be the film, can we pull in the best talent to make it happen? So I got onto a flight, went to London, and I met my friends over there and said, hey, can you come? Let's spend about 3-4 months in Chennai, and can we make some ad films? I made 10 commercials. My very first commercial became the advertising film of the year, which I made for
Wow. Okay.
And the cinematographer I had got at the time, who loves Tair Sadam, okay, even licks it with his hand even today, okay, is none other than John Matheson, who went on to be the cinematographer and 3-time Academy Award nominee for Gladiator,
Oh, okay.
Hannibal. Many of the big Ridley Scott movies has been done by him. And so the idea is that whatever may be the idea, we need to, when the idea is formed, you need to find the best talent to collaborate and work with it, period. So you're always in the mode of discovery. You're always, when you have an idea, you're back to ground zero. So in that sense, this whole, which later I sink in with very much. I didn't have the words in my initial days, but Steve Jobs gave it, think different. That somewhere keeps resonating and bringing new ideas. So I look at it by saying, give me the most boring subject, I'll make it the most exciting. So if I say, yaar, Janagana, Mande Matram karo yaar, Janagana Mana kya hai? देश का है, नेशनल एंथम है, वंदे मातरम रोज ऑल इंडिया रेडियो में गाना आता था. But how do we spin that and create a new idea? So the thing is, this canvas is so open. It's how you see, how you embrace, and don't think to put any commercial. What will come out of it is never ever the picture. You have to fail. I have failed. It doesn't matter. But idea is important. Go behind the idea, respect the idea, give it the very best.
Right. It's fascinating actually. So in a country which has got 65% of the population below 35, I would imagine there is no country on earth, and that 65% being 65% of 130 crore people. So it's an absolute amount of incredibly large amount of young people. I would imagine that both the audience and the talent available are desperate for newness and differentiation, right? So tell us a little bit. You did touch upon the idea of the prospect of talent and how you're thinking about talent. So how did you think about talent in the early days, and how have you sort of worked with talent in the last so many years of your professional journey?
See, filmmaking is a very collaborative process. Okay, you can be, as a director, the captain of the ship, but you need to have the expertise with you in every field. And every person adds those kind of values, and energizes the idea. And for example, my partner, my wife, Kanika, is a very good example. Okay, like she never edited, but I knew that she had a good sense, and the way she used to discuss with me about films. So one fine day, I gave her the rushes and said, "You edit this film." Sorry. So out of the blue, she gave me a new surprise. So every time, sorry. So every idea, like for example, when I shoot some rushes and come back and I give it to the editor, I switch off. Because when the editor presents it, I'll see, hey man, wow, this is surprising. I never even thought like that. So it takes it to the next level. So
Mm.
there is an engagement, you have to give room for creativity to embrace that idea. And sometimes it may not work, then you got to be firm. But you have to be open. So this is very important in any creation. Okay. So what was your question? I'm sorry. Somewhere. Sorry, Ari.
It's good. No, I think it gives us a lot of the backstory of what makes for a final thing that happens outside is always as interesting as what you see outside. And I'm really happy to hear the thinking and the process that goes that goes.
One more example. So when Vande Matra, right? So I wanted to film that with John Matheson.
Mm.
And just the day before the shoot, he was supposed to come from London, and we had a detailed discussion. And he had a kind of some infection, and just like he couldn't make it. So he said, "Don't worry, I'll find somebody." So a new cinematographer came. I was just so disturbed. First time I'm going to go and shoot. I don't know what was going on. I only called that guy to say, bring a particular lens that was not available, okay, in India at that time. So a new cinematographer comes. He's a Zimbabwean origin, but lives in London. And it's just like lands in Mumbai at 11 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, I'm off to Bhuj with him to go and take the first shot. And he has never been to India. And the first set he sees is 2,000 people there of a village standing there. Okay. And every next day we go to a location, we have 2,000, 3,000 people. So that rude shock of what am I going to get, I don't know. But I have to go, I have to give him my 500% vision and passion so that he feels he doesn't know anything about India, he doesn't know the landscape, culture, nothing. But just see the magic that came out of it. Same way for Incredible India. So when I had to do Incredible India, I said, okay, let me find a cinematographer who comes from a very contrasting, different mindset. So I got a very good DOP from Iceland. So the guy who has never seen people, has no noise. Suddenly you drop him in this place. He sees poetry. He sees beauty in a very different way. And that really helped me shape Incredible.
Well, that's very interesting because what it tells me is that the depth of what we call culture in India, very often we see it in a particular way, all of us, and one of the things I noticed from all that you're saying is that one of your dimensions of thinking different is to present what we all see as culture in lenses that have not been probably used before on that. So whether it is youngsters doing that for different parts of what's happening in India through Virtual Bharat, or bringing in somebody from Northern Europe to do something in India, am I sensing that that's actually one of your core ways of thinking about how to bring culture alive, Indian culture alive in your work? Is that would be a reasonable summary?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think it's perfect because even in Virtual Bharat now, like say, I do get segment directors. So they go and film. Then after that, I get a new editor. This is not the traditional way of filmmaking. Okay, the traditional way, the director will coordinate with the editor and sit down. So this time, the person who had shot is gone. Cinematographer is gone. The editor takes away. Then after that, we bring another composer. So first of all, a film in Punjab I shot it in Punjab called in Beni Sahib, where every child learns classical music in that village. The film is called Shabad Agdi Kushbu. Okay. Then I found a amazing sitar player from Surat. So now that soundtrack of that person is very important for that film. Then I give it to a composer in Trivandrum to look at it and produce all this together. He makes magic. So we have to be open. It's like a lab, creative lab. It's like simple things like we keep saying, how do you get a sandwood paste? Keep on grinding it. So we take an idea and keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And when we find it's ready, wow, now it has a life to live because we want to make each film timeless. आज भी देख सकते हो, 15 साल भी you should have the same emotion. So you need to allow it to marinate and curate and get it right.
Wonderful. Actually, this is interesting because Bala, as you were speaking, I was also thinking about this. And see, one of the big see as a traveler and as somebody that's worked a lot in travel today is that, the big change that I see today is that a large number of people actually have now moved from their old moorings and now live in different places, whether it is a Mumbai or a Delhi or other cities across India. We are a land now of immigrants. And it's very interesting to me that therefore the notion of culture itself is probably in a state of transition, right? What used to be Eastern UP village culture today, when that person is sitting in in a taxi outside in Bandra outside Starbucks, is experiencing a completely different reality of what is called culture. And what you're essentially saying is you're building possibly this one layer on top of what we have traditionally called culture, which is a little bit more syncretic and trying to bring all of that together because there are people now from different places working on that. So essentially a new layer of culture, if I can sort of try and make it a bit grand, but it does sound to be that. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. See, because there is a kind of a conversation of culture required, okay? And then if that can be brought through creativity, it could really then connect to a much deeper audience. We shouldn't see it in a closed way. Oh, this is Tamil, it has to be like this. It cannot be done. This is the way it has been told. It has to be told. No. Creativity is all about freedom. Creativity is all about imagination. How can you preserve that story? Don't change the story, but imagination. Let me imagine, let me breathe. Give me an opportunity to lens it. That's what we see. In fact, you're saying about this whole layering. Whenever I go through to the airports, there'll be a guy who will say, Meena. Okay. So I know this Meena is from Rajasthan. Okay. So I'll say, हाँ जी आप कहाँ के हो राजस्थान के हो हाँ आपको कैसे पता है मीना लिखा है सब तो आप कहाँ के हैं हिलास में तो ऐसे मैं तो भारतवासी हूँ सर आपको भारतवासी कैसे आप भारतवासी बस सर घूमता रहता हूँ भारतवासी हूँ so somewhere I dropped that identity because you just have to embrace all the identity into you.
Beautiful. And this actually now segues me to the next part, which is actually even more core to this particular conversation, which is the idea of soft power. And I want to bring this back to that idea because that is the idea underpinning the center and the work that we are doing at the center. So the premise is that there is great power in Indian civilization. There are people and there are people all across the world who are deeply interested in various aspects of the Indian culture, the Indic culture. And they participate in that in different ways in their life. Soft power, we say, is really where that interest in India, that interest in our culture, transforms into a passion for India, and at some level becomes a positive view about India across the world in different countries. This is really how we see soft power. At the root of this, therefore, is a global view of Indian culture, right? And I think, so what I wanted to hear from you and understand from you is, in all of the work that you've done, how do you see Indian culture impacting people across the world? You've worked with people from across the world. Your work itself has traveled to people all over the world in terms of their ability to consume that. So in multiple ways, you've been kind of, at that point where you've seen Indian culture interact with the world. So can you give us a sense of that? How has Indian culture interacted with the world? How has that produced what we would call soft power?
Soft power is a term that probably America brought it to good strength with Hollywood.
Right.
So when they make a film in Hollywood, like Black Hawk Down, okay, I feel gung ho. I feel like part of, I feel suddenly America doesn't belong to me, but I belong to their nation. The way they make it like they are the saviors, they went. So they have well oiled this machine of soft power. We are not even at the beginning of it. I'm very honest. Before we even go out and talk about soft power, I truly believe that we should have a domestic audience first for our culture. When our domestic audience is full, they will then make the soft power feel it, resonate it around the world. Just by making some content and trying to see some, oh, Spanish have adapted this, or this is working in Brazil. It's like China में अभी Hindi film चलता था, okay? Doesn't mean we have become soft power.
Yeah.
We are all just superficial things. The day we will be a soft power is when India embraces its culture. We need to be, it has to come from within India. The power has to be felt here, from Kanyakumari to Srinagar. When we feel that this country, people have embraced the diversity and see the power of our culture, everybody will be at your doorstep. So that's why I'm focusing more in my own small way. I would say I want Virtual Bharat to work in India first. I want India to know India. I want Orissa to be felt in Nagaland, Nagaland to be felt in Gujarat, Gujarat to be felt in Jharkhand, like that. When you feel that power, when India talks to each other, when we start talking culturally as one, as we feel it, we power it, then our soft power will really fly.
Right.
Our literature, our poetry, our arts, everything else will go deep into people, because then you will see much more engagement, conversations will get much more robust.
Right. That, it's very interesting that you say that, because, I mean, if you don't believe it in your heart, I suspect it's impossible to almost, I mean, then it becomes an effort, and probably, it never works, right? So that's very interesting. So, but let me push that a little bit further, right? Saying that's a given that we've got to build our domestic sort of sense of the depth of what we have in our day-to-day life. I think that's really the point you're making. No debate on that. While we do that, while all that process is on, there is a parallel reality that is emerging today, that the world is becoming a place that communicates so much closer to each other today than it was maybe 50 years ago.
Sure.
So even the smallest thing that is happening today has tremendous potential to get transmitted and to even get adopted. I mean, in ways that we see, in very strange ways. I've been seeing a bunch of videos on YouTube these days about a bunch of kids all over the world who are talking about eating with their hands, like people eat in India, and it's fascinating how a simple thing. We don't think about this, but it seems to be one of the aspects of culture that's without us realizing it, is moving there. So do you see things like that in your experience that could be early pegs or different pegs that we could slowly support in the idea of what Indian culture is transmitting, and for people to adopt? We normally think about classical dance and things like that. Maybe there are other things that, like eating with your fingers, that could be powerful. Any thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I think I had said it from a very different point of view, I think, but it is here to stay, this whole soft power and this acceptance of, the way of living of this 1.3 billion people and this 5,000-year-old culture is definitely going to connect. Take, for example, Netflix. Today, see the number of shows of India or Indian actors. For example, today, if there is in America, they're making a main content, there will be an Indian character in the story.
Right.
They have realized that today they are a part of our ecosystem, okay, the universe, okay. So culture is also embraced because they see the Indian character with a certain culture, okay. So I think other than just yoga and turmeric, okay, we have a lot. Yes, that is definitely, because every time you go to a Starbucks there today, they'll give you a turmeric shot for $5. Okay. So,
Correct.
which we ignored when my mother gave me, and I'm paying $5 over there.
Correct.
Okay. I think, yes, we can really, what do you say, power up our so many stories and ideas, which are deep wisdom, especially in these times of COVID. You will find so many of our ancient solutions are so valuable. Okay. And
Right.
um, it is here to stay, sir. Whatever you have said is here
Correct.
to stay. It is about how we carefully and systematically be there. It should not be just a fashion that
Yeah.
acha, no, it's not a token. Acha, ye Indians ko bhi la diya. We are here to stay. We need to be a part of the ecosystem, and through that, obviously, the way you live, your culture is anyway embedded. It will transmit.
Right. Perfect. So, so this is really interesting. So we kind of did a journey with the latest big project that you're doing. Then we went back and looked at how your career started and the way you've brought, so the idea of being different and looking at culture very differently through different lenses into all the work that you've done. Obviously, that's taken you to a place of great prominence, great rewards, great awards. So, all that is there. I want to end with a small section, which then goes behind all of this to childhood. You touched upon that a little bit, and I'm always interested because, for the obvious reason that the child eventually goes on to become the man. So tell me a little bit and share with the audience a little bit about the background, and in your mind, the 2 or 3 things that sort of played in your childhood into you becoming what you're today.
हरी दिल का बच्चा हूँ आज भी. The child stays with me. I am still excited by seeing new things, getting fascinated with ideas. If I get an idea, I am so excited. So वो बचपन अपन नहीं गया. Okay.
Yeah, so very good.
Childhood is an integral part of what you are. But I actually, thanks to my parents, I've been lucky that I grew up in Delhi, and then I came to Madras, and then to Bombay, and then been traveling around this world. So, and also my father, as I told you, was a part of the freedom struggle, and then he was a journalist with the Hindu for many years, like 30, 40 years. And he was the best pal of a leader called Kamraj.
Oh, okay.
So for me, imagine, I I was one of his favorites, okay, as a kid, because I used to give him 13 tablets. I knew where he will hide his 555 cigarette under the pillow, okay, and I was blessed that I didn't know at that time as a kid, I was about 11 years old or something when he passed away, that his asti was, put in the Sangam in Allahabad by me, okay.
Oh,
So, this whole thing about, uh, and every, like say, nearly about 9 years, consecutive years of growing years, first 10 years, uh, every year from the age of 1 onwards, standing right opposite to the president and watching the entire Republic Day, okay, and beating the retreat is all part of your Delhi. You get this whole pride of India that, so, which if I had grown up in Chennai, I wouldn't have got it. Okay. So that, then going into Madras and then feeling some culture, and then also the early days, we didn't know who is Dilip and who eventually became Rahman. So a lot of new opportunities, and constant discoveries, and getting into a field where you don't know anything. My father was a great photojournalist, so probably I got the eye from him. Okay, and very importantly, why in all this is because I could have just carried on doing ad film. The Kida for India has been put by my father. 1996. One day he sat me down and he said, "You are making big ideas for products, and you are making an emotion for a product that a consumer will buy into that emotion. Why don't you create a big idea for India? Why don't you create an emotion that can be a fervor in young minds? And then he talked about Vande Mataram. That very day, we set out to say we will create an idea called Vande Mataram, not knowing what we are coming out with, but we said we are going to do it. So, in that sense, simple middle class, okay, but dream in a way where impossible, parwani, dekh lenge, but kar lenge. Like this lockdown happened, sir. And the first thing I came up with an idea was we need to document this lockdown.
Mm.
Otherwise, imagine we won't have, what we have is only news, sir, nowadays. News is just use and throw kind of content. How do you get deeper footage of what India has gone through? How can you imagine empty streets, empty places of this 1.3 billion people? Where are they? From Banaras onwards, which you've always seen as hundreds of millions of people. Whereas in the West, by this time, a filmmaker would have gone and documented in Europe and America. And next 5 years, they'll be showing only those films. So I said, karna hai, kaise karenge, pata nahi. But today, 50 days later, sir, so many doors shut on us, saying no permission. But other doors opened.
Mm.
I'm just talking, I'm not saying kaise. The other doors will open. If your idea has the merit, if you have the deep desire, nothing is stoppable. That is the thing. Kahan se paisa aayega? How will we get a team? No, we will discover all of that. Okay, he'll find new partners, new people, but idea has to be made. So we have documented. We have 100+ hours of footage, some 15 terabyte of footage, and some amazing content of India in the time of this lockdown. So that for generations to come, we can see what we as a nation and people went through.
Bala, this is, for me, this is particularly satisfying, this conversation. I must tell you why. Because, one of the things I have come to the conclusion as part of my experience of travel is that the story of India can equally be told by conversations with some of India's most interesting people. And I am on that journey to some extent. And I'm very, very happy that to have had this conversation of a childhood that went from, all across India, the Delhi, Chennai movement, the Kamaraj experience, the meeting of Dilip, to Rahman, and so on and so forth. It is this kind of story that I think makes India.
One last thing.
Sure.
Which people can't get it today. I'm so happy that I was part of that generation. It's taking a train in second class from New Delhi, a train which takes 40 hours to go, called Grand Trunk Express.
Correct.
To Chennai, Madras, okay? And through the journey, you see the culture.
Yeah.
Petha in Mathura, Hoshingabad mein tarboos, the ice cream and orange of Nagpur. Every station, like, oh my God, Vijayawada tak, every station. Oh, you will cross this at midnight. We will snow at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. We'll cross Godavari, So we have to see the Godavari, going through the bridge and seeing the river. Every river that you had crossed through, every landscape and the sounds from chaya, chaya, chaya to idli vada oppeya. That's what, what I'm talking. The whole sound changes. That is the enrichment I've got. And that is fascinating. And in the hold all, there is no pillow, because in South you will not get the wheat from Punjab. So the wheat from Punjab is made into pillowcases, and that is what you will sleep in a GT train, so that your cousins will eat Punjab wheat in Madras.
Correct. Oh, it brings so many memories back, because I grew up in Delhi as well, and this thing of going, and I used to go even further. Actually, I used to take the Kerala Express, which would go from Delhi all the way to Trivandrum, and very similar kind of canvas that you cross. I still remember Chambal, as very young kids, Chambal was a big thing, right, in those days. And fascinating, wonderful. Thank you very much, Bala.
Thank
It's
you.
been a great conversation. Love to continue this conversation. So we will hopefully have more of these as we go forward. Once again, thank you very much for your time.
But Hari, I should tell you, I've never had this kind of a conversation because I didn't prepare anything. You brought out things in a very different way. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Vijayalakshmi ji, anything from your side? Any questions from the audience?
I don't see any questions from the audience.
I have one point, Akka.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bharat, this documentation that you have done for this lockdown, have you covered the migrant problem that we have seen towards the later half of the lockdown? And if so, I just want to know how you would like to treat that. Would you treat that as a part of the overall thing, or would you like to treat that as a separate thing? Because I think there's a lot of that's a whole host of message for people to understand the problems that migrants have faced as a result of this lockdown, and this has to be told in a very poignant way that only perhaps you can.
Obviously, it's a very painful story. So at the end of it, we are making a human story of this entire lockdown. Okay? We, as what we have experienced as people, anybody. Okay, so definitely the migrants is a part of the story. I still haven't seen all the material. There's so much material. So first we're going to, go through and all the rushes, and we will tell a complete story because we don't want to be swayed by emotions, because there is how humanity came together. It is a painful time. There's no two ways about it. But how people withstood the pain, what is the inner resilience? What is the strength of our people? Even if they are poor, they have resilience. So that's what going to shape the story. Migrants definitely can't ignore that. That's a part of the story. But I would like to see their resilience in their challenge. Suffering is there. Whatever is organically true will make an honest film.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions? I don't see any questions. And I must say this has been a wonderful 45 minutes. And we do look forward to engaging with all of you very soon again. And I shouldn't say Sri Bharat Bala, I should just say Bala.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Bala, thank you very much for sparing us this time. And Hari Nair, thank you also very much. I brought the Sri for now, but I always like to put the Sri there because that's a beautiful way of addressing anybody in our country and our culture. So I really look forward to all of you being there with us again, and thank you all very much, and we look forward to it. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Bala.
Thank you, Hari.
Thank you.